Morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you about Alamos Gold and our Island Gold expansion. With that, I want to start off, kind of give you a bit of background of Alamos. This is a pivotal year for us. We were founded in 2003 by our current CEO, John McCluskey, so it's kind of unique in this industry to have a CEO that's so long-lived. But that's the level of investment he has in the company, and again, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. Right now, we have three assets. Obviously, ourselves, Island Gold, I'll be talking to you about this morning, as well as an operation in Matachuan, the Young-Davidson mine, as well as the Mulattoes operation in Sonora State, Mexico. Okay, we have, through all three of these operations are presently in production, and we also have a couple development projects throughout the world. You might have heard about the Lynn Lake project in northern Manitoba, which we just put out some new information on recently. So about our site in particular, we're one of the highest grade, fastest growing resources in all of Ontario, if not in a lot of the world. We're presently an underground mine. What happened was we were founded originally by a joint venture between these two companies, Richmont Mines and Patricia Mines. And over time, they grew and they grew, and they basically reached a point where they could no longer develop the asset any longer. And we acquired the asset in 2017. And since then, you've seen we've had tremendous growth of the resource. And because of that, we had elected to expand it through our Phase 3 project. But one of the things I want to talk to you about right now is we produced just over about 1.2 million ounces so far, of which more than half of it has been done since we acquired the asset. And we're currently operating at 1,200 tons a day, and post-project we'll be doubling that to 2,400 tons a day. Right now we spend about $184 million locally in local suppliers, and we pay out about $64 million in wages and salaries to our employees, of which just over 40% are local. And by local we mean in the township of Dubreuilville, in the municipality of Wawa or White River. Okay, and right now our mine life's approximately 18 years, but we're kind of in a unique situation that kind of mine life keeps expanding almost year on year right now, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that going forward. I want to talk to you about some of the responsibilities we take. As you know, everybody talks about ESG, environment, sustainability, and governance. I want to show you what we're doing about it. You can see the first picture there. That's actually one of our First Nations members. It's Miss Nobby Cree, the representative that was doing an environmental audit. And again, you got to remember, we're temporarily there, whereas the landowners have been there long before us and will still be responsible for the land long after us. So we want to make sure that we have full transparency, they're able to see that we are doing it justice and we are ensuring that the land is treated with the respect it deserves. The next item you see there is Indigenous engagement. That's a more recent member of our team there. It's a Michipicoten First Nation. They're actually doing kind of a bit of a meet and greet, getting to know the operation there. You can see that we have open doors, because at the end of the day, like I said, it is their traditional territory. I want to make sure that they do see and they know what we're doing and they agree with us it's appropriate how we're doing it. And then finally, the social performance. Now, this is something we've talked about as an industry for a long time. You probably heard about it. I think Colorado School of Mines put out a paper called The Great Wave that's coming, the Great Retirement, if you will. And at the time, we're now in a very tight labor market, and everybody's looking, how do you get people? Well, there's two ways to get people. One is to find them somewhere, and the other is to develop them. We elected to do both, and what I want to talk to you a little bit about is the program we decided to start developing it. One of the things we talk about as an industry, everybody talks tons, grade, ounces. Most people get a good idea around that. But a lot of people don't know what else the mining industry offers. So what we've done is we're working with the local high schools. We started off with a high school in Dubreuilville. We've gone to the French Catholic High School in Wawa, and we'll be going to the English Public High School next month to do this. We call this our mining showcase. It's where we take 14 departments within our mine, take representatives from each of the departments, come down and basically do a round robin throughout the various departments, spending about 10 or 15 minutes with each department on a small group one-on-one basis to explain, what are these opportunities, what do they present. As you can see in the case there, that's actually Ecole St. Joseph in Wawa. That's the environmental group giving a presentation in the Kim Lab, talking about what the environmental department does. And especially one of the individuals there actually in that photograph actually did not know what we offered in the environmental side. They're interested in the environmental sciences, and rather than keeping it theoretical, they actually elected to make it practical, and now that's what they're elected to study on. The same token, we're working with the schools there in the trades program as well. We're supporting a trades program, we're supporting co-ops with the high schools, get people into electrical, mechanical, and other similar trades, carpentry as well, and that's one of the things, again, through our showcase, people didn't realize. We have a lot of surface infrastructure, there's a lot of maintenance that's required onto that. We have red-sealed carpenters, and a lot of students didn't realize that that's a pathway that was available to them. So this gives them an opportunity to develop their skill set into a marketable trade, as well as to stay in the local community where they call home. And we've had very good results right now. We're averaging about 2 or 3 apprentices into the trades every year, and we're recruiting about 5 to 10 new employees in other areas. To take a look at kind of the bigger picture, right now we employ about just over 1,000, almost 1,100 people, including contractors, just over 520 full-time employees for ourselves. and about 560 contractors. The majority of those are tasked with the expansion program we're calling Phase 3 Plus. About 40% of our workforce is local, and again, that's Duberville, Wawa, White River, and the other 59% are coming from further afield. 70% of our workforce are women, a little bit above the mining average, and about 22% of our workforce is 30 or below. And like I touched on before, as we're expecting the gray wave to come, we want to make sure we're ahead of that and we're able to maintain our operation and grow. Now we talk about some of the support we provide to the local community. Just over a third of our spend was local. 98% of our spend was actually in country. So much like the previous presenter said, we're looking strategically. We're looking to consolidate ourselves in country, kind of divest ourselves from a lot of the more problematic supply chains. In 2022, our operations, we spent about $4.8 million with our First Nation partner businesses. Now, we continue to work with our vendors as well to develop them. We work with them strategically to say, we're looking at long-term partnerships. I think a lot of the partners we have had for a number of years hopefully acknowledge and agree with us that what we're looking for is a partner we can trust and count on. We want to make sure that, price is a big part of it. We're also looking at it from a value perspective. How can we grow together and make sure we can continue to deliver to each other's needs? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about post-project and kind of where we're at right now. So right now, you see we're on the bottom of the list in regards to annual production. We produce about 130 to 140,000 ounces of gold every year. You can see our sister operation, Young-Davidson's, beating us a little bit by 192,000, but post-project, we'll move our way up the ranking significantly. We'll be the 6th largest gold producer in Canada at about 287,000 ounces per year on average. It'll also make us the lowest cost producer. Right now we're producing for just below $1,000 all-in sustaining costs from a US dollar perspective, and we'll be below $600 post-project. And as you can imagine, we're continuing to look at that and see what further improvements we can do, obviously. But I think that also puts us in a position that's enviable for a lot of our other competitors, if you will, insofar as we can weather just about any price storm you can imagine that's coming up. It also gives us a lot of the capital from our own operations there to continue to look at expansion options. And we'll cover that in a little bit later on in the presentation. And at the end of the day, we'll be the 3rd most profitable. And again, this is just all in sustaining cost times number of ounces and basically the estimated price of it. And you can see that that works out to be, and it will be averaging about $337 million per annum effective profit. So again, the only ones that beat us, you guys can see the two on front of us there. Those are both large open pit operations. So that's not going to be too bad for a little underground operation in Northern Ontario, would it? Let's take a look at the growth we've experienced. And this has been the foundation of what Island Gold is today and what Island Gold will become. As you can see in 2016, that was the last resource and reserve statement that was put out prior to the acquisition by Alamos. And you can see we're below 2 million ounces resource and reserves, and it only produced about 457,000 ounces at that time. 2017, like I mentioned before, we wound up acquiring the asset. A little bit of growth in the resource. We're basically just at about 2 million ounces. And you can see over time we added more and more to it. Again, this is all netted depletion. You can see the production has increased year on year on year. Having produced our 1 millionth ounce in 2021, and we're now just about 1.2 million, a little bit more now, obviously, as we go into 2023. Present resource is a little over 5.3 million ounces, and again, thus far we've been able to replace it, if not grow it a little bit every year, and hopefully that trend continues. Okay, we've had also one of the industry's highest conversion rates, and again, this comes from a lot of knowledge of our deposit. We're able to drill, we understand it very well. We're converting it right around 90%. So again, I think that's pretty well unheard of. I know a lot of other operations would be envious of that number, but that allows us to also make sure that we can develop reliable mine plans to deliver to them. I think we've developed a bit of a history here of being able to deliver what we promised to. And right now, you can see our discovery cost, again, is one of the industry lowest at about $14 an ounce. We go through here, and this is kind of one of the upsides, and this is really one of the charms of our asset that is Young-Davidson. If you look over on the right is a long section of it. And you can take a look at that blue area. That's the resource that's down deeper. That's a lot of the inferred and indicated level. Come up into the orange, a lot of that's getting into our reserves. So we want to show you some of the drill results. And unfortunately, we don't have the time here to really walk you through a bit of the history. But when we acquired the asset, basically everything that was there was effectively orange now. And it was a lot of it was resource. A lot of it had been converted at that time. And you can see we've had a tremendous, almost explosive growth since then. I wanted to bring you up to a couple of the results we had there. I mean, like you can see up on the right-hand side, we had a 40.5 gram, so 40.5 gram intercept over about 2.5 meters. We're still averaging a lot in the 20s and 30s. We had one at about 104.5 grams per ton over a couple meters. This is what this deposit's like. It's very reliable, it's very predictable, but the surprises we do get are almost always in the positive so far. You see this new zone we're calling the sub-parallel zones. You might have seen the press release on that. So historically, the majority of our deposit trends east to west. We're now finding portions of it, kind of little spurs that are coming off almost 90 degrees. The first zone we're calling NS, we're obviously north-south. And right now we're stoping on the first stope on that horizon. We identified this in the fourth quarter last year, and in less than a year, we're able to convert it over into resource, and now we're actually actively mining it. Okay? And that's really a testament to the team we have. We have a team that is really knowledgeable on the resource. We have a very solid engineering group that's able to assess it, develop an effective mine plan, and implement it. And we have an operations team that continues to basically produce right on target, if not slightly ahead. So again, this is a team effort, and this is why we focus so much on our people and we focus on developing them. We take a look at this. This is something else you might have heard, is we acquired the Manitou Gold exploration company recently. You can see that's almost tripled it. It's about 267% in our gain in our land holding. Again, to put a kind of a milestone, you see the star, that's the Island Gold operation. Just to the west of that is Argonauts Magino operation. As you know, it's an open pit that's getting ready to go into production. You see a number of historic operations there. You can see, Edwards, Klein, and other similar operations. I want to bring your attention to, if you go all the way over to the far right, you can kind of see that's actually our area there just below the historic producing area of Renabi. It's the first gold showing in our area in the Emily Bay. So you go back into it, so now we have both a modern mine and literally the first gold mine in the northern Algoma region in our land holdings. So now I told you what we have right now today. I want to tell you where we're going into the future. So obviously now we've had this huge deposit. It's grown tremendously. I think we've demonstrated we have a good understanding of both it mineralogically as well as how to mine it safely and efficiently. So we're taking a look at, well, how do we better produce it? How do we better develop this asset? So we're talking this Phase 3 plus expansion. Everybody always asks me, how did we come up with that name? Well, Phase 1 was basically increasing the mine to about 1,100 tons a day. Phase 2 was a smaller increment to 1,200. The big milestone on that was a permit as well as a new mill, which we completed back in 2018. And now we're moving forward into the 2026 period with our Phase 3 plus. Now, bring everybody up to speed. We put out a Phase 3 announcement back in July 2020. I don't know if everybody remembers that. It was a joy of trying to do everything online. It was a bit of a learning curve. Had everybody in different rooms trying to sit there, and it's not the way we like to present a new project, but it's what we had. Wound up being a bit of an advantageous time for us, and I'll talk you through this a little bit, how we were able to actually come to the table with commitments and actually secure a lot of long lead items and long lead assets there ahead of time and be able to ensure that we can meet our schedule. A couple of the net effects of this is we talked already about doubling our production rate, reducing our costs almost by 50%. We're also reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by over 35%. And again, that's assuming with the diesel fleet post-project. Right now, we're working with a number of vendors to see if we can further reduce that through battery electric or other options. So we're still looking at better ways to improve that, but we're already starting off to being one of the lowest greenhouse gas intensive producers. Okay, so at the end of the day, this project's going to be composed of 3 projects. It's going to be the shaft project, a mill expansion, as well as a new paste plant. Right now, we use unconsolidated rockfill and cemented rockfill. And the rough timeline we're looking at right now, we declared the project back in 2020. We started the initial site preparation in 2021. Through 2022, we did a lot of the initial works. We built dry expansions. We did little things like that to make sure we had room for people. But now as we go into 22 and now into 23, we're actually into the build phase. And anybody who's been with a project like this before knows, a lot of people think you're not doing anything. They don't see anything. They don't know the background on the procurement side, on the engineering side, and the detailed design. They all look for the construction. Now we have something to actually show you on the construction side. You can see some of this at the bottom of the slide here. Won't go over this in too great detail. The total cost of the project from a US dollar perspective is about $756 million, of which we spent about 200 of it. And we've got another further about 74 million committed. And you can kind of show some of the progress we made, and I'll show you some future slides, some either further progress. That's the erection process of the head frame. It started in late June. In July, you can see where we're at, and we've actually now completed the actual tower build as well as the exterior cladding. We've installed all the shivs, and now we're going through the internal kit out. In the middle there, you can see our hoisting plant. I'll touch on that in a little bit greater detail. And again, we talk about strategic partnerships. This is actually where we partnered with Hepburn, based out of Southern Ontario here. We had the Hepburn hoisting plant at Young-Davidson. You want to talk about support? These guys actually put their own cell phone numbers up in the hoist room. So you know when you need to call somebody, you got their support 100%. And then you take a look over here, the site area in general. You can see the hoist house in the background and a little bit of the head frame tower erection. And you can see that we are obviously making solid progress against that. If you go back to last year, it was a whole bunch of talk, a lot of engineering drawings. Now I'm enjoying the privilege of actually showing you guys photographs. Kind of a quick overview of the project. You see the shaft site down the lower right-hand corner. That's the area we cleared off. That's where the majority of our efforts are. Again, looking at our project, obviously the shaft sink is the critical path. The paste plant's on our way back to our existing operation. You see that arrow calling out the existing portal. Again, we're a ramp access only mine presently. And then you go up and we have an existing tailings facility. And that tailings facility is engineered, and we've just gone through another round of engineering to prove it. We have more than enough capacity for everything we presently have in our resource and reserve books. Plus, we have the ability to expand beyond that if need be. Okay, so again, it's a bit of a unique situation as we have a fully engineered tailings facility here that's been approved to handle this. And then we have our polishing pond on the way there. So this is the long section. This is kind of a bit of a look at the underground. As you can see the planned shaft. We're going to be sinking it to just shy of 1,400 meters in depth. Right now our resource is going below about 1,500. This is one of the things here anybody who's ever been a mine operator knows. Almost always a shaft's undersized, right? It's undersized and it can barely reach the horizon you want to go to. So a couple of us decided to try to future-proof this as much as we can, and I was glad we could get the support from our corporate group to do so. Shaft's designed to support a little over 2,000 ore tons per day from 2,000 meters deep. So again, by sinking it a little bit more shallowly, we're able to reduce the cycle time and increase the throughput rate, and we'll cover that in another slide. But you can see the resource is kind of centralized to a lot of the growth we're seeing. Our ore body right now, a lot of the growth we're seeing is plunging down to the east, and the shaft's just east of center, very close to the centroid of the future ore body, we believe. So this is some of the progress. You can see this is the head frame a little bit further along than the previous photo. You can see the production shivs on the top of the tower there. Those are now all cladded in, like I said. I mean, it's a large 5 by 2 meter drum. You know, I'm a mining engineer, so I like to get into the technical details. But again, just for general discussion here, the big thing we see here, again, from that shallower depth, when we do 4,500 tons a day combined ore and waste, again, 2,400 tons of ore. I mean, that leaves us about 2,100 tons of waste capacity. At that 2,400 tons a day, we would need about 1,500 tons a day to support. So we got a little bit of extra capacity in there. So there's a bit of an opportunity there that we do have the luck of finding some expansion potential underground. We have the ability to potentially develop towards it with this asset. But from the ultimate depth, if we do elect to sink it to full depth, we can do about 3,500 combined tons a day. This is kind of another view inside the hoist house. You can see the service hoist is closest to us, and then the production hoist behind that. Again, this is the big advantage that a lot of people don't talk about. Right now we're on a ramp. It takes us about an hour and change to get down to about the 1025 level. A lot of our production will be about a 1,200, 1,300 level. That means it's going to be about an hour and 10 minutes to get down there. With our cage, as we call it, we can get down there in basically a couple minutes. We're talking about 5 to 10 minute round trip. Be able to bring down there, and we can do about 500 people per hour. Total workforce projects will be about 600, so our entire underground workforce will be 400. So we could bring the whole workforce, all 4 shifts underground in less than an hour if need be. So that's going to be definitely a welcome change for us all. Take a look at our paste plant. This is another thing that's going to be a big opportunity for us. We're able to utilize the tails. Everybody's familiar with what paste is. It's processed tails. We can use this backfill underground. This gives us 2 benefits. 1, it ensures we can support the increased mining rate. But 2, it also liberates a lot of material we had lost historically in pillarage. So we're estimating about 140,000 ounces, or roughly 6 months of production, we're able to save from pillarage by use of paste backfill. About a $52 million project. And again, our mill expansion, it's ongoing. Right now our mill is about 1,200 tons per day. A lot of our components there are well past their prime. Some of our existing regrind mills were built in, I think, the mid-50s. I think they've definitely done us yeoman service. It's time to put them out to pasture and give them a good retirement. So what we're going to be doing is a bit of a mill expansion. We're going to be adding some more leach tanks. We're going to be taking a lot of the existing facility, utilizing where we can for detox and other processes there, and really try to minimize the spend and minimize the impact of the region and parts of our expansion. Okay, we did revisit this as a new mill build, but again, it just didn't make sense. It made a lot more sense to do an expansion. So I know I tore through that pretty quickly. I was kind of hoping to stay on time there, Marla. Does anybody have any questions?